1977 was the last time Kentucky football reached such heights, winning 10 games, winning a fairly major bowl game, and certainly this is going to be the highest ranking for the Wildcats since going back to the late 70s. We got Kevin McGuffey on the line from Last Word on College Football to talk about Kentucky football and what a feel-good story for Mark Stoops and company, completing a tremendous season, defeating Penn State in upset fashion, 27-24. Kevin, you had to feel so good when you finally saw the last second tick off the clock. Penn State made a run, but you guys played a tremendous second half in particular.
Yeah, it's you know, I always like to say it's a great day to be a Wildcat, but today it's even more even more special. It seems like, you know, rocking the Kentucky football shirt. So now, like you said, it was incredible. The whole atmosphere was just nuts. That whole, you know, I don't know how many, 25, 30,000 people, it seemed like, you know, made the trip to Orlando. And as you said, it's first 10-win season since 1977, only the third in school history. The only other one was 1950. And as you said, you know, Kentucky, first bowl game they won since 2009, had lost 4 in a row before yesterday. And plus, you know, knocking off, you know, let's face it, Penn State's a big name, you know, big boy football, you know, going in, playing like that. And as you said, honestly dominated a lot of the game until you got to that fourth quarter. And then as us long-suffering Kentucky fans, like, we're like, oh, crap, here we go. You know, they got the lead. You know, basically Benny Snell got that touchdown and set the record, you know, for yards. And they kind of, you know, took their foot off the gas. And we're all sitting, like, I was, you know, at my work yesterday, and we're like, no, you know, you got to keep playing, And then here they came, you know, McSorley, you know, he's unbelievable, you know, quarterback, you know, playing with some kind of injury. I don't know if it's ever been disclosed. You know, I know there was one beat writer for Penn State that said it was a broken foot, but then that quickly got, you know, like I said, I don't think anything's come from that yet. But yes, then you see, you know, they score the one touchdown, then Kentucky goes 3 and out, then they score the next touchdown, and you're like, okay, where have we seen this before, you know, with Kentucky football? But as they've done all year, you know, the defense stepped up, and then there at the end, when they needed it, Benny Snell got those last couple first downs. And so, yeah, it's just a, you know, kind of a state of euphoria here. It's just, you know, everybody's just walking around with, you know, huge smiles on their faces, you know, high-fiving people. You know, it's just been, you know, like I said, it's only the third time in school history this has happened. So, you know, it's some rarefied air we're having here in Lexington right now.
You know, it was a 5-point spread by Vegas, so Penn State was supposed to be the better team, but it wasn't some outrageous point spread. So the analysts and the people that make money forecasting these sort of things knew that it would be a competitive ball game. But it seemed as though college football nation out there, based on what I saw on social media and some of the fan polls, just gave an overwhelming advantage to Penn State, I guess, just based on name brand and what was expected this season to transpire for both teams. That I came across very few people that gave Kentucky a real big chance of winning this game.
Yeah, well, if you go back, well, I mean, I did, but anyway, I'm a little biased, but still, if you go back and read the preview of the game that I did for Last Word on College Football, I said Kentucky 24-20.
Wow.
And now that's
Nice.
kind of do what?
Well done.
Thank you. But if you go back and look, it's been that way the whole season. Honestly, you know, it's this whole season has been a matter of like trying to gain respect. You know, the first you know, winning record in the SEC since 1977. You know, over the last couple of years, Kentucky has made great strides in, you know, the Southeastern Conference and with, you know, this group with the media and all that, but still, you know, nationwide, they're still, you know, whatever, you know, it's Kentucky, you know, basketball school. But, you know, coming in and, you know, winning a game like this one will hopefully, you know, say, okay, these guys are, you know, maybe for real, you know, with Stoops, you know, what he's built. You know, this has been like a 6-year building process to what happened on Tuesday in the Citrus Bowl. You know, from 2-10 the first year to back-to-back 5-7s, and then the fourth year finally breaking through, making the bowl game. You know, been to 2 of them, lost both of them. You know, last year, you know, Northwestern, we, you know, don't want to talk about that one. But then, you know, finally, you know, just breaking through. So the hope is that now maybe people, you know, on the nationwide, nationwide level will start to take Kentucky a little more seriously. But now the flip side of that is in 2019, you have to, you don't want to be, to use a John Calipari term, you don't want to be a one and done, win 10 games this year and then next year fall back and to like 5-7 or 6-6. I don't think that's going to happen. They have, a lot of really good young players. Obviously they lose Benny Snell, they lose Josh Allen, they lose CJ Conrad, Mike Edwards. I mean, those are some big shoes to fill next year, but they have a lot of young guys who, Stoops and Vince Marrow, Matt House, all those guys think can step in. So that's going to be, getting, I'm, use a cliche, basically getting to this point is one thing. You got to try to stay there now.
We got Kevin McGuffey on the line from Last Word on College Football to discuss the Wildcats and their huge win against Penn State 27-24, the culmination of just a huge season for Kentucky football, the likes that we haven't seen since 1977, with Kentucky most likely being able to finish in the top 10 in the nation. They were number 14 entering the game. I haven't done the addition of, who won and lost in front of them, but they should be able to push toward fringe top 10 status when the final rankings come out. And you went through the Mark Stoops chronology there at Kentucky, and I find it interesting because typically a coach takes over a program in need, and most of them fail. Most of them not because they're not good football coaches, but because it's difficult to turn around a situation that's been headed in generally one direction, a losing direction for decades. But the guys that turn it around typically wave the magic wand, and it happens pretty quick. He's basically put together a system and a process and worked that process, and tried and true, it's taken it step by step by step each and every year.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you go back to 2012, when Joker Phillips was let go after the 40-0 disaster, at Commonwealth Stadium, which ironically, that's when James Franklin, was at Vanderbilt. And, I think a lot of credit not only goes to Coach Stoops, but goes to Athletic Director Mitch Barnhart and, the athletic staff, because, in today's win, you got to win now society, this is a very rare thing where, they gave him time to build and build. Like I said, the first year was kind of a wash. He took over, like I said, basically kind of a disaster of a program, won 2 games and then, made up to 5 wins. But as you said, he's had, he came in with with a long-term plan, and to, his credit and to, Barnhart and people's credit, they've let him stick to this plan. And you've seen, this year, you've seen the results, and, you see the results in recruiting. You and I talk about, recruiting. They're have gone from getting these 1- and 2-star guys, that doesn't want to come to Kentucky, to, now they're in the mix, solid, top 30 classes every year, getting these 3- and 4-star guys, going into Ohio, taking, a lot of these guys, Lynn Bowden, who's one of the stars of yesterday's game, Penn State and Ohio State both wanted him, but he chose Kentucky. As you said, it's been a process, and it is very rare that in this, win now culture that somebody's able to, do that kind of thing and be able to do a 6-year process. So it's been really, it's been really interesting to see, not to sound like the Philadelphia 76ers, but it's like, trust the process. And that's kind of what, kind of what's happened.
Well, hopefully some people were paying attention. You mentioned the name Lynn Bowden, caught 62 passes last year, and he was just electric on a number of plays, and obviously one of the better special teams return men in the nation, and certainly made a major impact on that game. He was exciting to watch.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, he was Kentucky's highest rated recruit coming in last year, but he got to school late and was a little behind, and basically just what he was able to do on the field was just basically sheer athletic ability, and everybody said after that first season, said, just wait, to see what happens this year with him. And, he really showed, why the Cats were so interested in him, and, ran the punt back. He had a big punt return for a touchdown against Missouri. He and Terry Wilson have developed a good rapport with each other. And Bowden's only a sophomore. Wilson's only a sophomore. Those are, 2 guys that are going to be obviously counted on quite heavily next year. Because Benny Snell's already announced he's going pro. I think he'll probably be, maybe, somebody would, maybe second, third round, maybe third round pick, depending on, what kind of numbers he puts up at the combines. So you have AJ Rose basically who will take over for Snell. He'll be the guy in the backfield next year. But yeah, like I said, Bowden, I mean, I think he could be a definite all SEC, all SEC performer, first teamer next year, both as a specialist and as a wide receiver.
Do we expect Terry Wilson to have any competition for this quarterback spot next year?
See, that's the one thing that I think right now we're really unsure of, because you have Wilson, you have Gunnar Hoke, Danny Clark we've talked about before. He was a third string quarterback. He's already announced he's transferring. There's been rumblings, about Hope maybe looking to go somewhere else. His mom posted something on Twitter today about, a new start and fresh beginnings, or fresh start and new beginnings. That's what I was trying to say. Which everybody's like, okay, what does that mean? But yeah, basically behind Wilson, there's no one. If both of those guys were to leave, you have two guys. They took two guys in the recruiting class for this year. Nick Scalzo, quarterback from Florida, who unfortunately tore his ACL and probably may not even play next year. And then you have Amani Gilmore out of Louisiana, who's kind of a Terry Wilson. I don't say a Terry Wilson clone, but it really reminds the coaching staff, of him. And right now, that the only other, if Hoke and Clark, do leave, and obviously Clark is leaving, you have Walker Wood, who's like the fourth string quarterback, who's never played in a game, basically never seen action. He's from here in Lexington, but he's been saddled with a knee injury, a shoulder injury. So he's been, if something like that happens, I would not be surprised to see them go a JUCO route, much like they did last year with Terry Wilson, and try to pick up somebody there. So that's definitely one thing you would want, going to look forward to, or not look forward to, but look at going into next season.
Not to get Wildcat fans too excited about 2019 and salivating, but looking at this schedule, for an SEC schedule, it's about as tame as it gets. Toledo, Eastern Michigan, and of course Louisville at the end. We know how deplorable the Cardinals were last year, and despite hiring a new coach and maybe better things on the horizon, it'll probably be pretty rough again this year. So the non-conference is about as light as you're going to get for a Power 5 team. And then the non-division games, Mississippi State, as always, on the road, but they lose a lot of talent, especially on defense, and the quarterback, of course, Nick Fitzgerald. And the other game, so it's a round robin, as you well know, Kevin, but just to explain to the audience, if you don't know SEC scheduling, you've got your non-division rival of sorts that you play every year, and then the other game rotates. Arkansas is the rotational game.
Yeah. Like I said, Mississippi State is Kentucky's, permanent opponent from the SEC West. And like this year, Kentucky played Texas A&M. Now next year they get Arkansas, which, as everybody knows, has been down for a couple of years. I think Chad Morris is probably going to do some good things there. But yeah, I mean, Kentucky's actually going to have eight home games next year, because the game with Eastern Michigan, Kentucky was originally supposed to go up there, and the athletic staff up there offered Kentucky, give us so much money, I think it was like $800,000 or something, and you guys can come and we'll come there and play instead. And they said, okay, fine. So yeah, I mean, even though Kentucky loses a lot of people, in key positions, as you said, the schedule, I don't see any reason why you can't have another at least 8-win, maybe more season next year, just based on who they're going to play. And of course, you never know. Next year they get Tennessee, Florida at home this year. Kentucky finally broke the streak against Florida last year, this year. And then of course we don't want to talk about the Tennessee game where they just laid a giant egg, but they're going to be motivated to try to beat them to, pay back from last year. So yeah, the schedule sets up really, really well for them. So, maybe this time in 2020, we're talking about, another New Year's Day bowl. I think with the schedule, it's definitely a possibility.
Kevin McGuffey from Last Word on College Football, and a long-suffering Kentucky football fan basking in the blue glow of the aftermath of defeating the other team in blue there at Penn State as the Wildcats win it at the Citrus Bowl and finish off a 10-3 campaign. Kevin, we appreciate you stopping by and sharing some more Kentucky information with us. We always appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Mark, for having me on. I'll always appreciate it, and it's always a lot of fun. Look forward to doing these and look forward to doing more in the future.